Once again in studio here with me. It's great to have you. It feels like this has become your home.
I'm really enjoying it. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you and to speak to the listeners.
Great stuff, great stuff. Alec, now let me kick things off for us over here for us, right? This morning we're asking the listeners, all right, are you overweight? If we're speaking about your height to waist ratio, we chatted about this last week, that being not too much concerned about your BMI, right? We're talking about the circumference of your waist, how it should be half of your height is what we mean when we say the waist to height ratio. So is your stomach in control of your flesh, or is it in control? Is your spirit, are you allowing your spirit to be in control of that one? So have you compromised your health by not nurturing or caring for your body? This is just a few of the things that we've spoken about over the past couple of weeks. Alec, can you kick off this morning's show for us? We're speaking about fasting and insulin. Someone might be thinking, this is for me. I've been waiting for this topic. So let's kick it off for that listener.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dylan. I think the really important thing to pick up on as a start is that biblically, the Bible instructs us over and over again to fast. And it's not if you fast, it's when you fast. So fasting should be part of our lives, and it's largely neglected. So if you look historically back through the Bible, all the way back to the beginning, there's let's just start with a bit of a comment here. Ladies know that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Amen.
But the devil surely does too, and it's not just the men that are at risk there. If you go all the way back to the original sin and temptation, it was with food. I'll just stress that we eat way too often, we eat too much food, and we eat the wrong kind of food. But today we're going to be focusing on fasting and the benefits of fasting. And they really do have significant benefits, because fasting, if you look at it from spiritually, it's an opportunity for you to dethrone the dictator within, to seek first the kingdom of God, and then you will be blessed. It's a war between your spirit and your flesh, and it often allows you to hear more clearly from the Lord, and often brings favor, and definitely brings healing. It helps you to withstand temptation. And again, if we look at the three disciplines that we're talking about, your spirit needs to be in control and the driver for you to successfully come up with a nutrition plan and a training plan. So, when it comes to fasting, that's the spiritual warfare side of it, to help you to gain control, and to get the assistance of the Lord in your attempt to successfully improve your nutrition. So fasting there are many different types of fasting. We'll get into that a little bit later. But if we look at it, the spiritual reason for fasting I've outlined, and people can easily go and look for the biblical references to fasting. But the byproduct of a spiritual fast is that it helps you significantly improve on your nutrition, because fasting is the best way to get insulin production under control. So the two are linked. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But when you fast, it gives you the opportunity to reduce insulin. Insulin is produced every single time your body needs to digest food and convert that food into stored energy.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. So if we look at that, there's a process called autophagy, and that is where your body starts cleaning and purifying itself, and this process can only happen during fasting. So fasting gives your body time to heal itself. If you are overweight, essentially what we're saying is that you have got more stored energy than what you need, and that's why you're overweight, because your energy is stored in one of three places. Firstly, your liver. Secondly, in your muscles. So depending on how much muscle mass you've got, you can store more or less. And then in fat. And the first two sources are easily and readily accessible, while the third one isn't. So we'll get into those preconditions as to how you can actually and why it's so difficult to train away fat, and it's a lot easier to fix your nutrition and your diet. So other benefits, nutritional benefits of fasting are it reduces your as I mentioned, insulin. It also improves your blood sugar. It reduces your inflammation, improves cholesterol and blood pressure. So those are all byproducts that affect you nutritionally. And then if you look at the physical benefits, if you exercise while fasted, it helps you burn more fat. It improves your performance. It also helps to slow the aging process. And then very importantly, fasting doesn't have a negative effect on your muscle mass. So when you fast, you maintain muscle mass, but you will burn and lose fat. So it helps to get your body composition right.
Right.
So it's really ideal in that regard. So that sort of gives you an idea. And fasting, I mean, biblically you get the Daniel fast, you get prolonged periods of fasting, but we'll focus today a little bit more on time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting, and recommendation to look at what's known as a 16-8. So for 16 hours you fast, and that includes no snacks, and then you eat all your meals in an 8-hour feeding window. So that is a very easy way to ease into habitually making fasting part of your life. So yeah, I think if I go over to looking at the insulin side of things, and to put that in context there, insulin is specifically there to convert your food into stored energy. As I've mentioned, firstly in your liver, then in your muscles, and then in fat. So you can store an unlimited amount of energy in fat, whereas your liver and muscles are limited. So it's Dr. Jason Fung, a specialist, refers to it as a sort of the two compartments. You can think of your liver and your muscles as your fridge, and you can think of fat as your refrigerator. So accessing food out of your refrigerator when it's frozen is a lot more complicated than it is to access the food that's stored in your fridge.
Right.
So we have about 2 hours worth of energy, high intensity energy stored in our liver, and then depending on your muscle mass, there's some energy stored there too. And fat as a source of fuel for exercise can only be accessed when insulin is not present and when your heart rate is not overly elevated. In addition to that, your reserves that you've got in your liver and in your muscles need to be depleted. So you can start to see how difficult it is to successfully or plan on exercising away unwanted body fat. So training is there to improve your body composition, and exercise will improve your muscle mass, and it will change the ratio of your muscle mass to your fat, but it's not a very efficient way at losing weight.
So basically what we're saying this morning is your body should not be your enemy, right? Fasting and prayer for a healthy restoration of your body, and that balance between your nutrition, your physical exercise, right, and your spiritual health. Lots what we've been chatting about over the past couple of weeks with Alec Avierinos on the Health and Wellness Show, ultimately looking to give you a long and healthy life, right? That's what we're aiming to do. Regina getting in touch as well, saying that she's loving the topic. Anthea also getting in touch. Now, Alec, when we think about fasting and we think about insulin, and you're speaking about how important that is, I think it's a big misconception, the idea of fasting. I think lots of people, I know for myself personally, perhaps we approach it from too much of a spiritual side. And what I mean by that is when you say something like a Daniel fast, it's something that maybe church members do as a church once a year. They fast in February every year, as a church, trusting God for the year ahead. And that's sort of the last time they do it. But what we're saying this morning is it's actually more than just a spiritual side of things. It actually benefits your health beyond what you can even begin to imagine. And that's what we're unpacking this morning. Alec, let us continue letting people know how important fasting can be and how it can help them in their life.
Yeah, well, if I look at myself, and I've been experimenting with it for a long period of time, and I've progressively tried different versions of fasting. The simplest is time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting, where you compressing your feeding window. So you're cutting out snacking during the day, being mindful that every time you snack, you are producing insulin. And if your stores of energy in your liver and your muscles are already full, then it gets stored immediately as fat. So if you understand the mechanism of how it works, then you understand the importance of physical exercise, because physical exercise will help you to deplete the store of energy in your liver, so that the next time you have a meal, the energy can get stored for readily usable energy in your liver. But if you continually and eat too frequently and you're snacking all the time, then all of that gets stored as fat, because your liver and your muscles are already full, they're saturated. So you've got more energy than you need. And fat is a very efficient store of energy because it weighs 4 times less than muscle. So we're wanting to build muscle mass and reduce fat, and you're wanting to burn the fat and utilize the energy that you've got stored in fat. And the only way to do that is to actually fast. So you can go on a water-only fast, and the longer the fast is, the more appropriate it is to people that are severely overweight. So to give you an idea, fasting is the voluntary abstinence of eating food. And the record at the moment for that is 382 days. So you can survive for an incredibly long period of time on the fat reserves that you have accumulated through poor nutrition and eating habits over a very long period of time. So the fasting is an excellent way for you to start utilizing the energy that you've now already stored. And you have spiritual benefits, and then obviously all the physical and nutritional benefits that all come together. So it's key to understanding the role of insulin in storing energy, and fasting's ability that it gives you to actually manage that. So you're talking about the practicalities around fasting. So when we spoke on nutrition a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the 3 levers that you can control.
Correct.
So with fasting, you're now controlling when you eat, and by eating less, you're controlling the second lever. So you're pulling on 2 of those 3 levers. So we haven't yet touched on what you eat. Simplistically, there we're wanting to cut complex carbohydrates or reduce them, not cut them completely, but reduce them, and cut out sugar as far as possible out of your diet.
Right.
So one of the other roles that insulin plays is when insulin is present, it suppresses leptin, which is the what the body uses to send the signal to the brain that it's saturated. So one of the reason that food companies lace all of their foods with sugar is so that you don't feel full and you eat more. So
Easy.
it's
Wow.
that's just the reality. That's why they lace everything with sugar.
Yeah.
So
Almost so that our body actually ends up craving that sugar
yeah,
beyond even being hungry.
and so by fasting, you're controlling insulin, which allows leptin to send the signal to your brain that you actually don't need to eat. And by reducing the frequency of eating, you're giving your body the time to properly digest and rest and recuperate. So, as I mentioned, there's a variety of different fasts. So I started with a 16-8, and then I progressed to eating only 1 meal a day. And at the moment, I've gone back to eating 2 meals a day without snacking. And I have total fasts on a Monday and a Thursday. So I've essentially reduced my meals from 21 meals a week to 10 on average. And it's had a tremendously beneficial impact on my weight. So and that has had a spin-off on my physical performance and my athletic ability.
Yeah.
But also when you fast, you end up with more mental clarity and focus. And it's also improved my relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
So everything is interlinked and related. There's a good saying that I picked up from an interesting lady. She's actually a nun. She's 90 years old. And at 90 years old, she's still actively participating in triathlons. She started at the age of 48, and she's done over 300 triathlons since then. 40 of them full distance Ironman triathlons. And she says your mind is the motor that drives your body, which fuels the spirit. Her name is Sister Madonna Buda, very inspirational to see what she can do at her age.
Yeah, I've got a message coming through on the WhatsApp line from a fellow gentleman who used to be a presenter here at Impact, Mr. Kent Klein, and he's saying he would love to understand the role of OMAD, 1 meal a day, in intermittent fasting. He says, are there cons, or is it advised for high performance environments? I know he's a gentleman who does CrossFit. He also does he runs a lot as well. So he's saying, can we help a brother out?
Yes. One meal a day is essentially you fasting for almost 24 hours. So and then you having a meal, and normally people, to try and get enough nutritional intake in one meal, is quite an ask. So they normally have 1 or 2 meals over a very short space of time. So whether that's an hour or 2 hours, and then they begin the next period of fasting. So the short answer is that you can improve your performance, and you can perform on 1 meal a day. I find it difficult to eat enough from an energy requirement point of view, from a training point of view, only on 1 meal a day. So I eat breakfast and lunch, and then I don't eat until breakfast the next day. I find it beneficial to skip dinner, but that's because I'm in the fortunate position of being able to have my main meal at lunchtime. Many people aren't, and many people find it way easier to skip breakfast and eat lunch and dinner. The earlier you can have dinner, the better. And if you squash that together, then you're lengthening your fasting period, which is beneficial.
Right, yeah.
So, 1 meal a day, I did it for a long period of time, and it helped. And like I say, now I have 2 days of a week of total fasting, and the rest of the time I eat 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
Which seems to work. And then on the weekends, I sort of fit in with the family, and I'm not too fussy about how I eat.
How you eat with that, yeah. I've got another message here from Ruan saying he's witnessed Kent eating, so he's convinced that he can get a whole day's nutrition out of 1 meal. He says it's honestly inspirational. So I think you've definitely answered Kent's, Kent's message
Kent,
over there.
I think the take-home message is if you're eating only 1 meal a day, you really need to make sure that you're getting in enough protein.
Yeah, correct.
Especially if you're doing athletics and sport and trying to build muscle like CrossFit. Your protein is key.
Right. I've got another message over here as well, Alec, on the WhatsApp line from Victor. Victor is saying he's been doing a 14 to 16 hour intermittent fasting for the past couple of months, and he says the benefits are unbelievable. He says his HbA1c has come down from 6.1 to 5.6, and his goal using this intermittent fasting is to get it down to 5.1. That's quite insane, the progress. So that's already first-hand experience, not only from you. We've got Victor also saying, it's really unbelievable, the benefits of the intermittent fasting.
Well, I think the nice thing about fasting is it's really simple way to get your nutrition under control. You don't have to count calories. You don't have to try and work out what you're expending and take in less than you're expending, so that you have got a negative caloric deficit and that you lose weight that way. For me, that was way too complicated and too much effort. Intermittent fasting is really simple, and you're not too worried initially about what you're eating. You're just controlling when you're eating.
Yeah. Okay, Alec, that being said, I mean, this is a topic we could go on forever, but let us wrap up this episode this morning. Any final remarks before you say goodbye?
I think if I look at getting practical, you need a clear plan to correct your thoughts and behaviors. We can help you out if you go to almightywarrior.me, and there's references there to nutritional experts there. Althea Nell, her contact details are there. She can help you personalize a plan. But if I can put out a challenge to the listeners, cut your sugar, reduce your refined carbs, cut snacking between your meals, and look at intermittent fasting seriously. It will have a very positive effect on your health in general, and it will definitely help you to lose weight.
Great stuff. Alec, look, it's been a very insightful show indeed this morning. Got lots of comments that have come out throughout the show. If you've missed it, it'll be up on our YouTube page as well as on our Impact podcasts on our website. It's Mr. Alec Avierinos once again in studio with us with the Health and Wellness Show. Alec, thank you so much for your time once again.
With pleasure. And all the best to the listeners.
Yeah.